Buenas noches, good evening, and welcome to the Hispanic Federation's Annual Benefit Gala. It is exciting to greet you all virtually. While this is our first virtual event, and hopefully our last one, today we do get to commemorate the 30th anniversary of the Hispanic Federation, an organization that's been a part of my life and my family's life since its inception, and has been at the forefront of empowering Latino families and communities nationwide. That's 30 years of caring, supporting, uplifting, building, advocating, and fighting for a stronger Latino community, a stronger America. When my father founded the Hispanic Federation, the vision was to create a cornerstone organization for our people and its institutions, a place we could rally together to respond to our community's most pressing challenges. I think he and the leaders who followed him made good on that promise. From New York to California, from Florida to Illinois, from Texas to Puerto Rico, the Federation continues to serve and amplify its impact every year. Together, we will emerge stronger from these days of uncertainty and despair, and I know that the Federation will continue to lead and guide us for years and decades to come. So, raise a glass and say cheers to the Hispanic Federation for its noble and outstanding work. It is my pleasure now to introduce my friends, the Federation's Board Chair Manuel CHINEA and Gala Committee Chair Natalie Reyes.
Gracias, Lin-Manuel. We simply could not ask for a better ambassador of our work than you, or a stronger founder, and now movie star, than your dad, Luis Miranda. Today, we're celebrating his legacy, your voice, and the leadership and support of so many who have made our 30 years of exceptional service to the community possible. Though the challenges through the years have changed, and this year has certainly been unlike any other, our purpose has never wavered and has never been clearer. Take action, be bold, and deliver for those who need us the most.
Así mismo es, Manuel. Things are tough right now, but so are we. All of you have joined us tonight and have continued to stand with us, preparing us for this moment. You are the reason the Hispanic Federation has led the most far-reaching and impactful Latino COVID-19 relief effort in the country. I want to especially thank our presenting sponsors tonight for their leadership and amazing support of our work and mission. They are Bank of America, Google, Morgan Stanley, Popular Bank, T-Mobile, Warner Media, Toyota, Univision Communications, Charter Communications, and Comcast. The generosity and support we have received from each of you, even as we have taken our annual gala digitally on our monumental 30th anniversary, is an affirmation of the importance of our collective, of our shared values and causes. Tonight, while we are unable to share dinner together, please know that your support is helping to provide meals to tens of thousands of struggling families across our great nation.
Indeed, Natalie, it fills us with great hope and energy to know that we're in this fight together. And because we stand together, our team is amplifying its impact and finding new ways of tackling some of the most persistent and troubling issues of our time. It is with deep gratitude for all of you that I introduce the next feature, A Day in the Life of HF.
We were created in crisis. Leaders and communities coming together, fighting for quality education, for health access and equity, for fair housing and greater economic opportunities, for social justice and equality. All these issues served as the catalyst for our creation. Organizations of, by, and for our community. Institutions working on the front lines. Latino nonprofits whose vision, purpose, and relevance grows stronger and more important every day. For 3 decades now, the Hispanic Federation has worked with these essential organizations to build a network of care and support for Latino children, seniors, workers, and families. They are our brother's keepers, and of our tias and abuelitas too, always there to provide a vital lifeline of support for the most vulnerable among us. The COVID-19 pandemic has tested us, but our work has never wavered. Our response has been what it needed to be, unparalleled and unprecedented. After all, we know what it is to respond to crisis, to find ways to steel yourself and stretch to address loss and mounting needs. to respond always with compassion and commitment, with knowledge and leadership, with resiliency and vision. That's the power of our network. We've worked all across the nation to help those most affected and injured by the pandemic, providing aid to children and families living in poverty, comfort to our elderly, refuge to migrant families, care for the sick, and sustenance and protection to our essential workers. As always, we've said presente, feeding families, keeping them in their homes, providing protective equipment and tools for online learning, advocating fiercely for the safety and care of our communities. Their power, our power. The power to show up first, to serve, to stay, to give hope, to lift up. The power to embrace our values, our heritage, our legacy, and our future. The power of us. We are the Hispanic Federation, taking Hispanic causes to heart.
Saludos desde San Juan, Puerto Rico. As director of Centro Mam, the leading nonprofit maternal health organization on the island, and midwife, I am thrilled to be here with you this evening to present the Humanitarian Award to an organization that has been leading the way with the Hispanic Federation and many of the Federation's community partners to help strengthen and reimagine Puerto Rico, the Clinton Foundation. For over 2 decades, the Clinton Foundation has worked globally to address complex challenges and improve the lives of millions of people. In fact, the foundation is working today with strategic partners to better the lives of 430 million people in over 183 countries. Through its CGI Action Network for Post-Disaster Recovery, the foundation brings leaders together to make commitments that accelerate recovery from natural disasters and promote resiliency in affected regions. In 2017, when Puerto Rico was shattered by Hurricanes Irma and Maria, the foundation sprang into action to bring essential supplies to the island. These critical needs were followed by the coordination of long-term recovery projects in areas of entrepreneurship, workforce development, health and mental health care, disaster preparedness, and agribusiness. To further strengthen the island, the Clinton Foundation worked closely with the Hispanic Federation to coordinate the installation of resilient solar-powered installation systems at dozens of community health clinics and centers in Puerto Rico, including our Health and Wellness Center in Carolina, Centro Mam. Let's take a look at the amazing Clinton Foundation in action.
This is a good model for dealing with the aftermath of disasters. And if you're committed to doing what we should all be doing, which is to help people build back better with more resilient and more flexible societies, it really works well.
We have all experienced such a catastrophe with this disaster of Hurricane Irma and Hurricane Maria, but positivity creates such a room for change and progress.
The president clearly is an expert on energy and passionate about the topic, which, just gives power to all the things that we're trying to do.
A bit of a silver lining is that I feel that we're so much in this together, in that we have partners who all are working toward the same to make our islands better than they were when we came into this disaster.
And it was President Clinton when he came to Dominica that said, it's not coming in for that 5 seconds, it's what happens after, and it's who's going to be there with you during that long term and that longevity.
Particularly in Puerto Rico, there's so much opportunity now. I mean, the chaos is bringing tons of opportunities.
The power and impact of these projects on not only the people who are suffering, but the people who are helping is inestimable. It is unbelievable what happens.
By coming here and sharing these ideas, there's a tremendous amount that we learn. We can go back and have much better plans.
We can overcome all of it if we do it together, and if we do it right, it will be good for the economy here, and it will set a shining example for the rest of the world. Good evening. It's my great honor to accept the Humanitarian Award on behalf of the Clinton Foundation. I'd like to thank tonight's Gala Chair, Lin-Manuel Miranda, and congratulate Luis Miranda as he takes his own well-deserved turn as the star of the screen with the showing of the new film, Siempre, Luis. I'm grateful for what you did in founding and leading the Hispanic Federation for so many years. And I'd also like to thank FRANKIE Miranda and the board, staffs, and supporters of the Hispanic Federation for continuing your partnership and good work. Over the last 3 decades, the Hispanic Federation has become one of the most effective and empowering organizations working on behalf of Hispanic families and communities across the country on issue after issue, from education to healthcare, immigration reform to economic inclusion, voter mobilization to disaster relief, and environmental justice. The Hispanic Federation uplifts millions of people and advances the community's full participation in the social, political, and economic life of our nation. I'm very grateful that the Clinton Foundation has been able to work closely with you on several projects to help Puerto Rico, to build back from the devastating 2017 hurricanes in a way that's stronger, safer, more inclusive, and more resilient. I've had the chance to visit with some of the people benefiting from this work, and every time I come away inspired by their efforts to build a better future and reminded of what is really possible when you bring people together with the simple goal of lifting lives and strengthening communities. In 2020, the work of the Hispanic Federation is more important than ever, as communities of color have borne a disproportionate share of COVID-19's human and economic toll. The struggle for real equality and justice continues, and the future of our democracy is at stake in November. I'm so grateful for the emergency aid the Hispanic Federation has provided to communities of color in New York, Puerto Rico, and elsewhere to keep small businesses and community groups afloat, improve access to testing and protective equipment, and protect the most vulnerable. And I'm grateful for all you're doing to ensure that everyone who's eligible to vote has the ability to do so safely and easily, and that their votes will be counted. Thanks again for this honor, and more importantly, for the life-changing work of the Hispanic Federation. Here's to much more success in your next 30 years and beyond.
Hola, I'm thrilled to bring you greetings tonight from Chicago. As the president and CEO of Instituto de Progreso Latino, we're proud to work closely with the Hispanic Federation in pursuing new ideas, investments, and innovations that bring meaningful impact to the communities we serve. When an institution stands apart, when forward-thinking and visionary actions are the heartbeat of an organization, we know and embrace it. Google.org, the charitable arm of Google, is the very definition of that institution. It's an organization that is constantly advancing and supporting cutting-edge solutions to solve some of our world's biggest problems, including climate change, racial justice, economic empowerment, and emergency crisis response. Following the devastation that Hurricane Maria caused in Puerto Rico, Google.org reached out to the Federation to determine how it best could help the people on the island. Together, Google.org and the Federation launched a $1 million project to support small fisheries, agriculture collaboratives, and tourism businesses in Puerto Rico. Last year, Google and the Federation launched a $2 million digital accelerator initiative to help Latino nonprofits prepare Latino workers for the jobs of tomorrow. The organization I lead in Chicago is one of 20 centers across the country carrying out this groundbreaking project. And Google.org is now working with the Federation and its network of nonprofits to improve and provide cash assistance to those who have been most impacted by COVID-19. Now, let's take a look at the innovation and commitment that defines this year's Visionary Award recipient.
Hi everyone, I'm Juniper Downs and I'm Google's Global Director for Public Affairs. My Puerto Rican grandmother would be proud to see me accepting this Visionary Award on behalf of Google.org. Vision is defined as the ability to think about or plan for the future with imagination and wisdom. But there's so much happening today that none of us could have seen coming. A global pandemic, deep division and polarization. That's why I believe vision is less about the ability to anticipate every scenario and more about the ability to see a better world, one that is more inclusive and fair, and to work day in and day out to adapt and respond until that more just world becomes a reality. Particularly in this moment of uncertainty and racial reckoning, we are so inspired by the work of visionary organizations like the Hispanic Federation. Over the years, Google.org has worked with the Hispanic Federation across a wide range of efforts. It started with a campaign to support economic recovery for those impacted by Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico, which showed us and the world the strength and resilience of the human spirit, even in the midst of tragedy. The work evolved to economic opportunity with the launch of an accelerator to strengthen Latino organizations serving the community with workforce development and digital training programs, bringing digital skills to over 10,000 Latinos across the country. And then the COVID-19 pandemic happened, adversely and disproportionately affecting the Latino community. And the Hispanic Federation did not miss a beat. They were there, providing a safety net and support to the thousands of Latino families that were being impacted during such a difficult time. We've been proud to stand with the Hispanic Federation as they work to advance and serve the Latino community, bringing awareness to where there is apathy, equity to where there is injustice, and belonging to where there is exclusion. We congratulate you on 30 years of service to the Latino community, and we are here to say we are with you as you continue the journey toward a more equitable world for everyone. Thank you.
Greetings from El Paso, Texas. As the Executive Director of Las Americas, an organization that works at the U.S.-Mexico border to protect the rights of immigrant children and families, and a proud partner of the Hispanic Federation, I am honored to present the Federation's Premio Orgullo Award to someone whose personal achievements and activism fills us and our community with enormous pride, Salma Hayek. Born in Veracruz, Mexico, Salma has risen to become one of the most famous celebrities in the world. She has starred in dozens of films, including Desperado, Traffic, The Hitman's Bodyguard, and Like a Boss. But her influence and success goes well beyond the screen. Salma is an internationally acclaimed director, producer, and activist. The production company she boldly launched over 20 years ago, Ventana Rosa, has allowed her to direct and produce feature films and children's programming. In 2002, she both starred and produced Frida, the compelling story of Mexican artist Frida Kahlo. The film was nominated for 6 Academy Awards, including a Best Actress nomination for Salma. Following this success, Salma served as the executive producer of the acclaimed Golden Globe Best Comedy series Ugly Betty. And while we celebrate each of the incredible achievements that Salma has had in her professional career, we embrace her even more for how she has used her voice to lift up vulnerable children and families around the world, victims of domestic violence, immigrants, pregnant mothers, newborns, and communities dealing with devastating natural disasters. Now, let's take a quick glimpse at the amazing world of Salma Hayek.
Y no me digas que me amas, no me digas que me adoras, dime solo que te queda una vida junto a mí. To what? To share your life with someone who loves you, who cares for you? Look, I told you in the beginning, I have no problem raising this child on my own. So you were an artist. Big deal. We were just debating the basic economic theories of wealth distribution. I'm talking about somebody willing to sacrifice a little of their own pleasure rather than go on hurting the woman who loves him. Daring, unexpected, exhilarating. That's fierce.
But to be honest, the world doesn't need your feelings. It needs jobs. It needs money. It needs what I do.
The world doesn't need you. No. The world has more than enough of you.
Doug is a great philanthropist.
Shut up, Kathy. There is another type of cancer that is killing this earth, dog. The world is dying. What? Muchísimas gracias a la familia Miranda and the Hispanic Federation. Today, I am very honored to receive the Premio Orgullo. Y me llena de orgullo. I am filled with pride. Thank you so much. I think it's beautiful that the Hispanic Federation doesn't only honor successful Latinos in their fields, but that they have this special prize for Latinos who are involved in philanthropy. And I think this is precious because I think every Latino is somebody that naturally cares for their community and for others. Our spirit is filled with compassion and humanity, and this is part of being a Latino. So again, muchas gracias por este premio. It also makes me so happy that I'm receiving this award from Linda Rivas from Las Americas Immigrant Advocacy Center. It is so important right now that we help our immigrant brothers and sisters that are in the camps of ICE. It's terrible what's happening in there. From the kids that have been separated from their parents, to the victims of coronavirus, to the claims of hysterectomies that are being done in women that never approved it. There is very little information. It's almost impossible to have access to what is really happening there. But the little that we know, it's horrific. So the people that are fighting there day by day to help these victims of these horrors, and that are trying to get the information out there because we should demand more transparency, are heroes. And because I respect their work so much, and because I am so sad with this situation, and also because I am inspired by the Hispanic Federation and our community. I would like to not only accept this award that it's given to me, but I'd like to give something. So today I will also be making a donation to Las Americas.
Buenas noches. I have the great honor of greeting you this special evening as the Hispanic Federation's 5th president in its exceptional 30-year history. The start of my tenure, which is now a little more than 8 months old, has certainly been different than the way I envision it. It began with us being thrust into action early this year to address a swarm of earthquakes that batter a Puerto Rico already in crisis. The impact and the damage caused by these earthquakes were something that the island had not experienced since 1918. It was an omen of things to come. A global health pandemic followed and upended our country and the world. And the awful murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and far too many other Black and brown people has created civil unrest as our nation confronts its long history of racial violence. 2020 has certainly tested us, and all of this pain and suffering is deeply personal. But I am proud in how we, this virtual collective that is gathered here tonight, has responded. Every step of the way, the Federation's board, staff, membership organization, and the family of donors have been resolute in the conviction that we can find strength in one another, that together we have the power to inspire hope, to comfort our neighbors, and uplift struggling families. We may need to continue social distance, but we are never alone. Our founders, Luis Miranda, and the other amazing community leaders who created and built the Federation, and the trailblazers that follow Luis, Lorraine Cortez Vasquez, Lilian Rodriguez Lopez, and Jose Calderon, forged an organization with the capacity to stretch and respond boldly to our community's most pressing challenges. It is not by happenstance that the Hispanic Federation has led the largest nonprofit relief and recovery effort in Puerto Rico post-Hurricane Maria, or that we are now spearheading the most far-reaching and impactful Latino COVID-19 emergency relief effort in our nation, providing over $14 million in assistance to families and communities in 25 states and Puerto Rico. We're built for these moments. And because of your generosity, those of you who join us here tonight, that we are prepared to respond to whatever lies ahead. Because of you, we are stronger than we have been at any point in our history. Our network of Latino nonprofit members and partners now stand at over 250 institutions, and our programs and grant making continue to expand to meet growing community needs. We're building diverse coalitions to address systemic racism and social injustices, and advance policies that will improve the lives of millions of families in our nation. What's more, we are mounting our most comprehensive Latino voter registration and mobilization effort ever that will see us reach, register, and mobilize more than 1 million Latino voters during the upcoming general elections. All of that and more, you will make happen. Thank you. And speaking of making things happen, I have the great pleasure to introduce now our Corporate Leadership Award to an institution and friend who have truly taken our mission to heart, Bank of America and its COO, Tom Montag. For more than a decade now, Bank of America has built a remarkable partnership with the Federation based on shared values and aspirations for our community. They have been at the forefront of supporting our grant making to our network of nonprofits and making critical investments to our hunger relief and financial literacy programs. They have also lent us their greatest resource, their employees, to help us lead food, voter, and toy drives and mentor our youth. And when we needed help to address natural disasters in Puerto Rico, to open up an office in North Carolina to better serve families in that state and to support those most impacted by coronavirus, Bank of America has consistently said presente, count on us. And so much of that support has happened because of Tom Montag's leadership and the fact that clearly our causes are near and dear to him. Thank you, Tom and Bank of America, for honoring us every day and every year with your friendship. Let's take a look at what makes our Corporate Leadership Award honorees so special.
Bank of America has always been a champion of diversity and inclusion and deeply committed to the Hispanic community.
By being a great place to work for our teammates, by being a great place for our clients, and certainly by being proactive and being there for our neighborhoods where we live and where we work.
Through the products, the services, the tools, and all that we provide them to help them on their financial journey, particularly when they stated their language preference is Spanish.
We are privileged to work for a company that is so committed to both our community and the employees, specifically diversity and inclusion.
Working in a company where I feel that I belong and where we are encouraged to be our true self at work is critically important.
Being a part of this incredibly diverse, dynamic, and rich culture that has become the fastest growing minority population in the country.
It's about having passion, it's about being resilient, it's about being optimistic, and thinking about the diverse tapestry from which I came.
It's celebrating who you are and where you come from.
Understanding the importance of family values and hard work and passion.
The rich history, the sacrifice of those before me, frankly, it's who I am.
Being Latina to me means having superpower. Being bilingual, bicultural, and being able to be part of two worlds at the same time, it's an incredible skill.
Congratulations to the Hispanic Federation on your 30th annual gala. Felicidades a todos.
To the Hispanic Federation, congratulations on celebrating 30 years, and here's to many more.
Congratulations to the Hispanic Federation on your 30th anniversary. Felicidades.
Felicidades and congratulations to Bank of America and Tom Montag on the corporate award.
I could not think of a better leader more deserving of such a prestigious award. So muchas felicidades. Congratulations, Tom.
Congratulations to Bank of America and Tom for receiving the Corporate Leadership Award.
Felicidades, Tom. Estamos muy orgullosos de ti.
Greetings, it's a privilege to represent Bank of America and accept the Corporate Leadership Award. In honor of the award, I've grown my hair into my Luis Miranda look. It's also an honor to be on the same virtual stage as President Clinton, Google, Salma Hayek, and the Mirandas. I never thought this would happen. I want to thank the Hispanic Latino Executive Council of the bank, chaired by Raul, Anaya, and Marlene Potter. We've really enjoyed working with the Hispanic Federation team. They've made it a joy to get involved in their efforts, and we've been pleased to be involved in the hurricane relief, in the Charlotte hub, and running joint events for fundraising for the Federation. And in fact, they've inspired us to do even more. We got invited to a breakfast to thank some of the people after the hurricane relief efforts were underway. The Mirandas were there, and the Federation. At that time, we had the idea, for the first time, of ever going to Puerto Rico and recruiting at the universities. Since 2018, we've hired 42 people from college campuses in Puerto Rico, some as interns, some full-time. And in the country, we've had a 76% increase in Hispanic Latino campus hires since 2017. Just recently, the bank made a philanthropic pledge of $1 billion on racial inequality. We announced $300 million of that last week, $25 million going directly to community outreach, $25 million for job training in predominantly Black African American and Hispanic Latino schools, including 11 community colleges and 10 HBCUs and HSIs. We've put $50 million of equity into minority depository institutions, and $200 million more will be directly invested in minority businesses, entrepreneurs, and funds. And the bank won't stop there. At this time, it's my distinct privilege to introduce our next three guests. If anyone works more tirelessly to help people than Luis and Lin-Manuel, I do not know them. They do it with a graciousness that literally humbles me. I've been at many events that they have hosted, and they meet and greet every single person with a smile on their face and the willingness to take a picture. And that John James has captured some of their heroic work in Puerto Rico in the film Siempre as a gift for all of us. At this time, let's hear from Lin-Manuel, Luis, and JJ.
Thanks, Tom. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here with us. I get to be Oprah today. I'm going to interview John James, the director of Siempre Luis, and the man, the myth, the legend in his own mind, Luis Miranda.
In my own mind, that is the intro.
JJ, let's start with you. Why did you want to make a documentary about Luis?
Well, when I met Luis, I mean, I was just sort of really inspired by his story. Really the migrant angle of someone who had everything, you know, who had a full life in Puerto Rico and then just decides to pack up and leave because he feels the island where he's from is too small and he's got bigger dreams. And so he sets off at 19 to come to New York, and he just does amazing things. And quite frankly, I can't believe that someone didn't beat me to this. So this was really a question of thought and action, right? It was, had the idea. A, was Luis going to say yes when I asked him to follow him with a camera? And B, were there sort of universal elements of his story that would connect with people? Because he's unknown. And I feel like in this day and age, it's difficult to just sort of say, hey, I'm inspired by someone. I really have a bond with this person. And I think other people will be just as affected if they're unknown, right? So, but over time, I really began to connect these kind of universal themes in his life. The migrant piece, which was kind of connecting to these universal themes that were playing out in our own culture. The family man, quite frankly, the genius, right? The most interesting man element. And it was all there. So I was going to have no regrets. You know, I was going to do this, and whether it found a home with someone didn't matter to me. It didn't matter to Carlos, quite frankly, who had given up his time and provided his expertise and was just as kind of brought in by the man.
Well, I agree with you. I also think it was only a matter of time. I'm just grateful it was you, and this is not the Real Housewives of Washington Heights that are following us around with the camera. Luis, what was that like? What was it like being followed around with a camera? You are, and this would get a huge laugh if we were all in a ballroom, a pretty unfiltered personality. What was it like?
Unfiltered? No, I am very politically correct.
What was it like? What was it like having cameras around your life?
Well, it was probably the most difficult part. I am comfortable doing what I need to do without having the spotlight. I don't mind building an institution as I did with the Hispanic Federation at the beginning and other institutions. I don't mind being the person behind candidates who I'm pushing forward to win an election. I don't mind being in the background to you. As a matter of fact, it's funny when they introduced in the Today Show the two anchor women, what they're saying is, oh, we get to interview Luis. We see him in that corner all the time. Whenever Lin-Manuel is here, he's there in that corner. So I don't mind that role. It's a role that I have had most of my life. So to have a camera and being the center of attention was the hardest thing, because I needed to teach myself that I needed to ignore the camera, because if not, you're fake, and I never want to be a fake.
JJ, how'd you meet Luis?
Met him at a political consulting firm, Global Strategy Group. The year was, I believe it was, oh Jesus, Luis, 10 years ago, something like that. So I was working for Jeff Pollock and John Sylvan at Global Strategy Group, and Luis and I met in the kitchen there. And he was wearing his trademark sort of turtleneck underneath Guayabera. I may have made a joke. He may have made something to me. He may have said something to me. But a bond formed pretty quickly when he realized I was Puerto Rican. It was kind of like, well, what are you doing here? You're working for the wrong side of the company. You should be working for us. We get on well, and we handle projects well. And to John and Jeffrey's credit, they began putting me to work with Luis. And so I began effectively to work for Luis at Global Strategy Group. And Luis just gave me projects to work on and left me alone. And I didn't understand why he was giving me these things to these projects to run by myself, because I was not equipped or prepared to do them. But he had,
at the time, I was just.
But he was always there. Just when you're about to fall and your head was about to hit the pavement, he would appear. He would make it right. He was a great teacher and advisor. And and that's where we met. We had a torrid pace of just dealing with, you know, the sort of the realities of someone who's a political consultant. And I was just kind of hanging on by his coattails, learning, and then eventually figuring out what I wanted to do with my life. And he played a role in that as well.
What's something that surprised you over the course of this, you know, pretty extensive shoot? What's something that surprised you about Luis that you didn't know when you met him in the kitchen?
He's shy. And I don't think a lot of people know that about him. You probably know that about him. He's really able to sort of, you know, he has personas, and I think he's able to know, okay, I've decided to do this for JJ, and this is a production, and I need to be in this kind of mode to reflect the person I am and the person he wants to film. But really, when the camera stops rolling, you know, I think he needs his space. I think he needs his time to be with email. I think he needs to commune with the work and the projects that he has in front of him. And most importantly, he needs to be with his family. And I think that's ultimately a very private and not a public endeavor.
Luis, do you feel shy?
I am very shy. The thing is that it's like many of you are, that you need to put aside as you do the work that you do. You know, being something and showing that and live together. Because the moment it's not to be shy, I'm just not ever nervous. You know, some people are shy and nervous. I just, you know, will stay behind or be in the limelight, and I don't have the nervousness that people attach to being shy or going into a limelight.
JJ, what's one of your favorite things from the film that you got? What's one of those things you feel like, I'm glad I was here with the camera
Sure.
On this day?
What are three things probably? I'd say the Miguel golf cart scene. And I don't know how much we want to tee that up because we want people to experience that on their own.
I really appreciated that scene. It was like watching my own childhood.
Yeah, it's fun, right? And you know, we I think that's a moment that for, I think, a documentary filmmaker, you just cannot get any more closer to, right, that buzzword authenticity. And likewise the interview that we did in his room in Washington Heights. Love the scene of you guys in the Hamilton dressing room. I felt just the way I sort of characterized the golf cart scene. I feel like it's a real father-son moment. There's no one's putting on airs. It's like, I've got a job to do, Dad. Can you let me do my job? And and you kind of make light of just how much is on your plate and how stressful it is. And he's kind of in there in your hair, a real father-son moment. If there would be a third scene, you know, I got a lot of feedback on the final scene. And I feel like, to me, I didn't, and we, meaning the sort of the collective filmmakers here, we didn't overthink that. It was something we knew. That film, I feel like him, and I just felt like that was perfect. Nobody got in the way. Nobody had to direct. We just stood back and watched it unfold, and it always brings a tear to my eye when I watch it.
I think it's important to acknowledge that one of the main scene stealers, besides Miguel, is my mom,
yes.
Who gets a laugh every time she's on screen. How did your marriage survive this filming? How did Mom take it?
Well, for 42 years last week, your mom ignores everything she wants to ignore about me. So this was
the secret to a long-lasting marriage.
This was one more instance where
are there cameras? Okay, cool.
Where she ignored what she wanted to ignore. That's sort of the way she believes, and she's very upfront and clear about it, that she believes I'm too intense. And she is way more laid back. And she doesn't want my intensity to affect who she is. So I have learned to be as intense as I want to be, because I know that if it's getting to her, she's gonna say, back off.
And I think it's great that you remind me of her role and her presence. She's really the film's Virgil, right? She is the narrator, or who takes us screen tests. Whenever we show this to folks, that'd be the first piece of feedback we would get is, quote unquote, that woman was amazing. And I think it probably is the reason why we showed up to her house and filmed her 4 times. Because there was always, you were peeling back the layers of the onion. She was always giving something more. You'd go into the cutting room and you'd see her takes, and she just kind of, she gives. And in a production, as you know, giving is great. You can do a lot with that.
JJ, what was your biggest challenge making this? What do you wish could have survived the cutting room floor?
I think the biggest challenge was Luis's schedule. I think we wish we could have just followed him more. I mean, in a world of endless dollars, that would have been the case, but it's not. And so in my mind, I always think back to, oh, what if we were in that room, or what if we were there with him? What if we could have just made that 6 a.m. flight? But that was probably the biggest challenge. The challenge to make the Sundance deadline, we were way late on that, on our submission. And the cutting room, I think, opened maybe June 1st, and they were receiving submissions in early fall. So that was very stressful. That was a hectic pace, as you probably recall. Stuff that, probably the scene that I would love to have made into the film is the Yamila question. Luis's sister, I asked her about what Luis's legacy would be, and I botched the question. And it basically led with, like, what happens if Luis isn't here? He's dead. And she got up and basically walked out, and she said in Spanish, "Really, JJ, you're gonna ask me that question?" She ripped her lav off, and I had to apologize because, I'm sort of pretty green at this. I got my master's degree over the course of 3 years here. And, I had to apologize. I teed the question up in the wrong possible way. And all of these thoughts of her dear brother came to her mind, and she was just like, I'm done.
Man, we had a dramatic walk-off. This was the Real Housewives of Washington Heights. We missed that. And of course, we love Titi Jamila, and she loves her brother. We're at the Hispanic Federation Virtual Gala. Luis, you started this organization 30 years ago. I guess my question is, did you imagine we'd be here? And what do you imagine for the future of it?
I always did. I always knew that it was a great idea that many Latino leaders thought about. It was not my idea. It was my job to execute that idea. And I knew that the most important thing I needed to do was to leave. That, you throw the plates and the balls up, you make sure they're pretty, they're painted, they're doing good, all of that is happening. And then you have to step back and let others take over, because that allows for more ingenuity, for new ideas to come to the picture. I can never understand I will be crazed why someone stays in the same place forever and ever and ever, because I believe that organizations get strong, grow, when you let them be, and then there's the next leader that takes it to the next level. And I always knew that there will be a great future for the Hispanic Federation. And Lorraine and Lillian and Jose and now Frankie are sort of the crew that have taken the organization to a next level.
That feels like a really organic place to end things, guys. Thank you for talking to me. Thank all of you for being a part of this gala. Thank you in advance for watching Siempre Luis on HBO, and to another 30 years.